Death in space. What happens to an astronaut's body in space? Imagine this. You are floating above Earth, the blue planet hanging below you like a fragile marble suspended in endless black. There is no sound, no wind, no scent, just the cold, dark, infinite void. For astronauts, space is the ultimate adventure, but it is also the most unforgiving place in the universe. Today we ask a chilling question. What happens if an astronaut dies in space? Welcome to the lost souls of space. Space is beautiful, but space does not care. It is silent, empty, and completely hostile to human life. The human body was never meant to leave Earth. Inside a spacecraft or suit, astronauts are safe. Outside, even the smallest mistake can be fatal. If an astronaut dies in the vacuum of space, the body faces a brutal environment. Without air pressure, fluids inside the body start to boil at normal body temperature. That does not mean exploding as the movies show, but the skin would swell and puff up like a balloon slowly filling with air. Within seconds, unconsciousness sets in due to lack of oxygen. Death follows within minutes. The temperature extremes are unimaginable. In direct sunlight, the body would bake at over 250 degrees Fahrenheit, 120 degrees Celsius. In the shadows, it would freeze to minus 250 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 160 degrees Celsius. A body left drifting in orbit would experience both again and again as it circles Earth. But space has one strange mercy. Decay almost stops. There is no air, no bacteria, no insects to break down the body. If sealed inside a spacesuit, the body could remain almost perfectly preserved for years, even decades, slowly spinning in the dark, silent vastness. Picture it. The gentle curve of Earth glowing below, stars sharp and cold above, and a single lonely figure drifting slowly past the window of the International Space Station, motionless, forever out of reach. In reality, no astronaut has yet been lost to open space. But the question remains, as we plan missions to Mars or distant worlds, what will we do if the worst happens so far from home? Lost without a trace. Mysterious space disasters. Close your eyes and imagine standing on a launch pad. The rocket towers above you, steel gleaming in the morning sun, engines silent but full of untamed power. A countdown echoes. A journey into the unknown awaits. But sometimes the brave do not return. Their voices vanish into the cold silence of space. Today we explore the heartbreaking stories of space disasters, where astronauts disappeared or perished far from home. Space travel has always walked the thin line between triumph and tragedy. In 1971, the Soviet Soyuz 11 mission ended in heartbreak. The 3 cosmonauts inside the capsule died quietly as their ship returned to Earth. A tiny valve had opened during re-entry, letting the air leak out. They suffocated in seconds. When the capsule was recovered, they were found strapped in their seats, perfectly still, as if asleep. Years later, in 1986, the world watched in shock as the Space Shuttle Challenger broke apart just 73 seconds after takeoff. Flames and smoke twisted in the sky. The 7 astronauts aboard were lost. It was a painful reminder, even with the best technology, space remains a dangerous frontier. In 2003, space claimed more lives with the loss of Columbia. As the shuttle re-entered Earth's atmosphere, damage to its heat shield caused it to disintegrate. Burning debris streaked across the blue Texas sky. The crew had no chance. Imagine the eerie calm of mission control during those moments. Screens flicker, radios fall silent. Engineers and family members stare in disbelief, knowing there is no rescue, no second chance. Though their bodies were recovered, these disasters remind us how easily people can vanish in space. Unlike on Earth, search and rescue is impossible out there. A lost astronaut could drift silently, orbiting the planet for years, becoming part of the endless dance of satellites and debris. As we push further toward the Moon and Mars, the risk only grows. What happens if someone is lost forever, too far for any ship to return? The fate of space debris. Could an astronaut's body become space junk? Look up at the night sky. Those tiny, twinkling stars seem so peaceful, so distant. But surrounding our planet just beyond your sight is a chaotic graveyard of metal fragments, dead satellites, and broken rocket parts racing around Earth at unimaginable speeds. Among this vast, silent debris field, we dare to ask, what would happen if an astronaut's body became part of the space junk? This is the lost souls of space. Space junk, or orbital debris, is the collection of man-made objects that no longer serve any purpose. From old satellites to paint chips, more than 100 million pieces float around our planet. Some are as small as a grain of sand, others as large as cars. Each one travels at speeds faster than a bullet. Now imagine an astronaut drifting helplessly into this dangerous cloud. Without a tether or thrusters, there would be no way back. The body would continue orbiting Earth, caught in a lonely dance above the world. If the astronaut was wearing a spacesuit, the suit would act as a protective shell. Unlike metal, the human body would not survive direct impacts with debris for long. A single piece of speeding junk the size of a marble could puncture the suit and damage the body inside. Over time, the fragile remains could be torn apart by these relentless collisions. However, if the body stayed in a higher orbit, away from the densest debris fields, it might avoid such a fate. In this cold, airless vacuum, with no weather or bacteria, decomposition would barely happen. The body could remain intact for years, even centuries, slowly circling the Earth, passing over mountains, oceans, and cities below, without ever being seen. Picture it. A pale, still figure wrapped in a stiff spacesuit, gliding silently over glowing cities at night, crossing sunlit clouds by day. Neither falling nor flying, simply drifting in the endless emptiness. There are no recorded cases of a human becoming space debris, but as missions to space increase, some scientists quietly ask, are we prepared for such an unthinkable event? Burial in the stars, the idea of a space funeral. The night sky holds many mysteries. As we gaze upward, the stars seem eternal, silent witnesses to the passing of time. But what if one day a human life ended out there, beyond Earth's comforting pull? Could space itself become a resting place? Could there be such a thing as a funeral among the stars? On Earth, we have rituals to say goodbye, funerals, graves, ashes scattered at sea. But space offers no such traditions. If an astronaut were to die millions of miles from home, how would their fellow crew members honor them? NASA and other space agencies have quietly considered this unthinkable scenario. The simple truth is that returning a body to Earth from deep space could be impossible. The weight, distance, and limited supplies on a spacecraft make it unlikely. One proposed solution is what astronauts call a space burial. The body, sealed in a special bag, could be gently released into space. There it would drift into the endless black, far from any planet or star. The body wouldn't decay as it does on Earth. With no air or bacteria, it would remain preserved, a frozen monument to human exploration. Picture the scene. The spacecraft hovering motionless against a backdrop of dazzling stars. The crew in silent formation watches as their fallen companion is slowly guided out of the airlock. The figure, wrapped and motionless, begins to drift away, turning slowly, a tiny silhouette against the endless canvas of night. The silence would be deafening. There would be no sound of footsteps, no birds, no wind, only the soft glow of Earth, shrinking in the distance, and the cold, indifferent stars above. Some private companies have already experimented with symbolic space funerals. In recent years, small capsules containing human ashes have been sent into orbit or launched deep into space. Though these are only symbolic, they hint at a future where space burials might become real. It's a sobering thought. In the vast, empty theater of space, a human body could become the loneliest grave in the universe. Trapped between Earth and space, the possibility of a body stuck in orbit. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast cliff, staring into an endless abyss. Now imagine that cliff is Earth, and beyond it lies the cold, airless expanse of space. There is no ground, no horizon, just infinite black stretching in every direction. If an astronaut were to drift away, untethered, they wouldn't fall back. They would become trapped in a silent orbit, circling Earth forever. Earth's gravity is powerful, but space is stranger than most people realize. Orbiting the planet is like being in a delicate balance between falling and flying. Satellites, space stations, and even space debris all follow this invisible path. If an astronaut accidentally floated away from their spacecraft, they would not simply fall back to Earth. Instead, they would slowly drift into a lonely orbit, moving at thousands of miles per hour, yet feeling weightless. They would see Earth below them, a swirling ball of clouds and oceans, breathtaking and out of reach. The silence would be absolute. No air means no sound. The only things breaking the stillness would be the faint reflections of sunlight bouncing off the astronaut's visor and the distant glimmer of stars. Their orbit would depend on where they drifted away. In low Earth orbit, atmospheric drag would slowly pull them down over weeks or months, leading to a fiery end as they burned up, re-entering the atmosphere. Higher up, where the atmosphere is thinner, the astronaut's body could circle Earth for decades or even centuries. Picture it, a lone figure, stiff and unmoving in a bulky white suit, slowly gliding over continents, oceans, deserts, and glowing city lights. Day turns to night and back again every 90 minutes. The astronaut's faceplate reflects the rising curve of the planet, the moon in the distance, and the cold stars watching from afar. It has never happened. No astronaut has been lost this way. But space agencies prepare for every possibility. Safety lines and jet-powered backpacks are designed to prevent such a tragedy. Still, the thought lingers in the minds of astronauts. What if, one day, the line breaks? To be trapped in orbit would be the ultimate isolation, drifting endlessly between home and the unknown. Vanishing signals, the final moments of doomed space missions. Close your eyes and imagine a control room filled with soft, blinking lights and the steady hum of computers. Dozens of men and women stare at glowing screens, listening to the crackling voice of a distant astronaut. Then, without warning, the voice cuts off. Static, silence, the signal has vanished. The room freezes. This is the nightmare every space mission dreads. In space, communication is life. Radio waves bridge the vast emptiness between Earth and spacecraft. They carry voices, data, and the simple comfort of knowing someone is listening. But space is unpredictable. Sometimes a spacecraft suddenly disappears from the radar. The signal stops. Mission control can only sit in disbelief, replaying the last words over and over, searching for answers in the silence. In 1967, Soviet cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov became the first human to die during spaceflight. As his Soyuz 1 capsule plummeted toward Earth with a failed parachute, his voice crackled through the radio, calm yet knowing the end was near. In 1986, Challenger's crew never had a chance to send a final message as the shuttle exploded in front of the watching world. In 2003, Columbia's crew spoke with Mission Control just minutes before their shuttle broke apart on re-entry. Imagine the scene inside those spacecraft. The gentle beeping of instruments, the soft whir of air filters, the distant blue curve of Earth through the window. Then, in an instant, chaos. The walls shake, lights flash. The crew barely has time to react before everything goes dark. The silence after these disasters is what chills the heart. The loudest thing is the absence of sound. Empty radio channels, no heartbeat monitors, just the cold indifference of space. Even today, space agencies know the risk. Every mission has emergency codes, backup systems, and rehearsed responses. But space remains unforgiving. Once a signal vanishes, rescue is impossible. In those last transmissions, astronauts leave behind not just data, but an echo of human courage, the knowledge that they reached beyond Earth, knowing they might never return. The psychological weight of space death. The fear astronauts carry. Picture yourself floating far above Earth, wrapped in silence. The planet below looks peaceful, distant, like a glowing blue marble. But deep inside, a thought lingers: what if I never make it back? For astronauts, the greatest fear is not the launch, not the landing, but the possibility of dying alone, untouchable in the cold vacuum of space. The view from space is breathtaking. Endless stars glitter across a black sky. The sun rises and sets every 90 minutes, casting brilliant streaks of gold and deep indigo across the surface of the Earth. Yet inside their suits and spacecraft, astronauts face an invisible weight, the knowledge that one small error could seal their fate. Astronauts train for years to handle emergencies. Fires, loss of oxygen, sudden decompression. They practice in pools that mimic weightlessness. They rehearse escapes and repairs over and over. Still, no amount of preparation can erase the silent fear of the unknown. Imagine standing at the hatch of the International Space Station. You glance at the Earth below, at the thin blue line of atmosphere that keeps billions alive. Step outside and only your suit separates you from instant death. A tear in the fabric, a failed connection, or drifting too far from the station could mean there is no way back. The fear is not just physical. It is deeply emotional. Astronauts worry about what happens afterward. Will they be found? Will their families have answers? Could their body become just another silent traveler among the stars? Some astronauts have spoken about moments of overwhelming awe mixed with terror. The beauty of the cosmos is so vast. It makes one feel both powerful and powerless. Alone in space, staring into eternity, the realization hits. You are a fragile visitor in a place that does not care if you exist. Space agencies provide mental health training and support, but the risk remains. To journey into space is to accept a silent companion, the understanding that you may not return. The courage of astronauts is not only measured by how far they travel, but by how calmly they face the endless dark. The ethics of death in space. Who decides what happens next? The stars shimmer coldly above, distant and unbothered by human life. Far below, Earth glows warmly, a fragile blue oasis in the darkness. Between them, astronauts live, work, and dream. But what if tragedy strikes? Who decides what happens to a fallen crew member in space? Space is the ultimate frontier, but it's also a place where human laws fade into uncertainty. No nation owns the moon, the planets, or the deep void between stars. So if an astronaut were to die on a mission, who would decide what happens next? International agreements like the Outer Space Treaty of 1967 were written to prevent conflict and protect life, but they say very little about death. Space agencies have quietly considered the grim possibilities. If a death occurs on the International Space Station, the body would likely be returned to Earth on the next available craft. But what about deep space missions, where no return is possible? The practical questions are difficult. Storing a body on board could pose health risks to the crew, yet releasing it into space raises moral concerns. Is it respectful? Is it legal? Could the body become dangerous debris? Picture the impossible choice faced by astronauts millions of miles from home. Outside the window, a vast emptiness stretches forever. The crew must decide, bring their fallen friend back inside and live alongside the body for months, or allow them a final resting place among the stars. The psychological burden would be crushing. Imagine waking up each day, floating in the cramped silence of the ship, knowing a companion is no longer alive, yet still present. Families back on Earth would need answers. Space agencies would wrestle with whether to share the truth or how much of it. Ethics experts debate these scenarios, knowing the clock is ticking as humanity plans longer missions to Mars and beyond. There is no simple answer. What is clear is this: the decisions made out there will shape not just the future of space travel, but how we define dignity, respect, and humanity itself in the most unforgiving place we have ever dared to go. Preparing for the inevitable. How space agencies plan for death in space. The stars do not judge, nor do they comfort. They simply watch. As humans reach farther into space, we must confront the possibility that not everyone will come home. What happens when the journey turns fatal? How do space agencies prepare for the unthinkable? Every launch begins with excitement and hope. But behind the scenes, planners face harsh realities. Space is unpredictable, and no system is perfect. Mission designers, engineers, doctors, and ethicists work together to quietly answer the question no one wants to ask: what do we do if someone dies out there? NASA, ESA, Roscosmos, and private companies like SpaceX all have protocols, even if they rarely speak of them. On the International Space Station, if a crew member dies, the body would be placed in a special containment bag. The small, pressurized station has no room for error. Respect and safety both matter. For missions to the Moon or Mars, the challenge becomes greater. Imagine a crew millions of miles from Earth, unable to return quickly. There are no rescue teams waiting. Spacecraft have limited space, food, and oxygen. One proposed solution is the body bag concept, a lightweight, sealed container that isolates the body and prevents contamination. Another suggestion involves freezing the body in space to preserve it for a potential return. Some experts have even discussed the grim possibility of sending the body into deep space, giving the fallen explorer a final journey among the stars. The emotional weight of such decisions is immense. Picture the inside of a future spacecraft: soft beeping monitors, floating equipment, and the distant glow of Earth shrinking outside the window. The crew would carry on, knowing they must survive, even as they mourn. Training for these scenarios includes psychological preparation. Astronauts are taught to handle emergencies calmly, even those involving death. Support teams on Earth stand ready to guide them through every step. As we plan for longer journeys, these conversations grow more urgent. The goal is simple yet profound: to protect the living, to honor the fallen, and to carry the mission forward. Will their souls be remembered? Honoring the astronauts who never returned. Beneath the velvet curtain of space, the stars remain silent witnesses. They do not speak of bravery, sacrifice, or loss. But we do. As humanity pushes beyond Earth, we carry with us the memory of those who dared to go first and never came back. From the early days of space exploration, astronauts and cosmonauts have faced the ultimate risk. They climbed into rockets knowing that a single error could mean disaster. They were not reckless. They were courageous. In 1967, Soviet cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov knowingly boarded a flawed spacecraft. He died during re-entry, but his name is forever etched in the history of exploration. In 1986, the world stood still as Challenger disintegrated against a clear blue sky. 7 astronauts, including teacher Krista McAuliffe, were lost, their journey cut tragically short. In 2003, Columbia's crew met a similar fate. Debris streaked the morning sky over Texas, scattering the memories of those on board. But their mission did not fade into nothingness. Picture the memorials: polished granite walls, quiet gardens, and stars carved into stone. Family members touch cold names with warm hands. Visitors stand in silence beneath flags that ripple softly in the breeze. But not all fallen explorers have memorials on Earth. Some may rest forever where no one can reach them, in the silent vastness above. Even the International Space Station circles Earth as a living tribute to those sacrifices. It hums with the quiet rhythm of life, fans spinning, computers blinking, astronauts floating through narrow passages, continuing the work started by those who came before. Every mission, every astronaut who straps in for launch, carries their memory. The lost are not forgotten. They are the reason safety protocols exist, the reason training is so rigorous, the reason each step forward is measured and careful. Their souls, whether you believe in such things or simply honor their legacy, have become part of the fabric of human exploration. As long as we reach for the stars, they travel with us. As we drift back from the silent void, one truth remains: space holds countless mysteries yet to be uncovered. What else waits in the shadows of distant planets, in the cold corridors between the stars? If these stories stirred your imagination, join us as we continue our journey beyond Earth's boundaries. There is so much more to explore, so many questions left unanswered. Subscribe to Galactic Whispers, activate the notification bell, and let your curiosity lead you into the unknown. The universe is calling. Will you answer?